Well, hello. How are you this morning, CSL Simi Valley? Good. I'm happy to be here with you this morning. Exciting times ahead, huh? Exciting times ahead, huh? That's the energy I want. There we go. It's like, were you guys not present for that meditation? We're going to fill this room. I'm really happy to be here with you this morning, and congratulations on what lies ahead for you. I love me some Stephen Rambo. He's a cool dude. You guys have got a lot of good stuff ahead of you. I was with him last week, and he's really excited about being here, and I'm so excited that you're here. So hi, Steve. I'm sure he's watching. So good to see you. So the title of my message this morning for you is this: Embrace the Good. Think about that. Embrace the good. Now, we heard about it a little bit a moment ago from Carol singing for us. And the good that I want to speak to you about this morning is not the good in the human form of good or bad. It's not like, ooh, that was a bad cup of, well, let me reverse this based on my experience Friday night. It's not like, ooh, that was a good cup of coffee and a really bad date. Or, or it's not like, hey, that was a really good flight that I had here, but a really bad vacation. It's not that type of good or bad. The good that I'm speaking of this morning is the good that transcends the human condition of good or bad. It's good, which is a synonym for God. And God, as we know in this philosophy and this teaching, is that which is omnipresent. It's everywhere. It's infinite. So therefore it has no beginning. It has no end. It is that power that exists by means of you and I, but goes beyond you or I. So I really want us to think about this morning as this being a catalyst for the jumping off point for how Centers for Spiritual Living Simi Valley is going to expand and grow, and the role that each and every one of you are going to take place in that, whether you're here in the chairs or online, whether you're a member of this center or not, but where you in your heart and your soul make a decision today to have more good in your life, and as you show up here as beings of light, knowing that the universe responds to that which we are, you must attract more and more of it into your life by means of you. And so what I want to talk to you a little bit about today is our making a decision to literally embracing more good in our life, to focus on that which really is an opportunity for us to live a better life. How does that sound? Good. I like the idea of that as well. Well, the thing that I want us to focus on second to that is this. And it's talking about what Dr. Gary Zukav says is one of the greatest gifts that we have in our life, and it's this. He says, the power of choice is the greatest gift you have been given. He says, second only to the gift of life itself. Now think about that for a second. The power of choice is the greatest gift you've been given, second only to the gift of life itself. What he's saying to us is the gift of life exists for us. We know that. We're breathing. We're sitting here. We just did a visualization, meditation. So we know that we have that. But the second greatest gift that's been given to us is the ability to choose. Now that's a big idea, don't you think? That's a big idea, our ability to choose. Because there's so many other things that could fall into that category as gifts as well. But he's saying to us, as human beings that are designed as contemplative beings, the ability to choose for ourselves, to make decisions, that's the second greatest gift that exists for us. So if we have that as a greatest gift for us, the second greatest gift, the biggest question that we have for ourselves in life is, what are we choosing? What are we choosing? And is it supporting that which we desire as an experience in life? He goes on to write that choice is the engine of our evolution. If you choose unconsciously, you will evolve unconsciously. If you choose consciously, you will evolve consciously. Choosing to evolve consciously is much better than unconsciously, and most often far less painful. He goes on to write, trust me, been there, done that. Now, you guys may have heard this quote before. I'm sure I've used it here before. It's one of my favorite quotes in life, and certainly one of my favorite Gary Zukav quotes. But I'm going to read it to you again, and I want you to listen to it in a different way. Choice is the engine of evolution. If you choose unconsciously, you will evolve unconsciously. Now, what we know about the nature of life is evolution is unfolding at all times. We're evolving right now. That's the act of evolution, evolving, whether we're aware of it or not, whether we're conscious of it or not. However, because we can become aware that we have the ability to be aware of our awareness, right, then we can evolve consciously. And he says that, if you will, is far less painful than if you, that is far less painful unless you do it unconsciously. But I don't want to live a life that's just less painful, do you? I personally would like to live a life that's more filled with joy, that actually is not only just far less painless, but as very, very few times are actually painful. Now, is that easy to do? Not always. However, we have the capacity to do that should we desire. Well, then what is evolution? Evolution is defined as the gradual development of something. The gradual development of something. What that's saying to me is, and I'm sure it will to you as I say this, is that if we choose to evolve consciously, then we must do that one step at a time. If we were to want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, how many of you want to do that? Thank God, me either. I would think you would want to do that. No? Okay. So, but the reality is you can't just go to Starbucks, get a venti iced green tea with a half a pump of sweetener, get in your car, go to Kilimanjaro and ride and climb it. You can't do that, right? Why? First off, it's stupid, right? Second off is that you haven't built the capacity to do that. The physical musculature, you haven't done what is required in your body to take that leap, literally, if you will. So to evolve to that place, you must start eating properly. I started to say drinking properly, which probably means not drinking, right? And, but you must do the steps that are necessary to get to the place where you have the capacity to use your intelligence to accomplish that which you desire. Now, some of you in here know that I have a school building project in Africa, and I was thinking about how when we build the schools, that's an evolutionary process for us. First, we must identify the villages. Then from there, we have to go in and create an arrangement with the villagers. We have to observe them. Then from there, we create an agreement with them. And then from there, we go in and spend time with them. And then from there, we identify a lot. And within that lot, we have to clear the ground. And once the ground is cleared, then we have to excavate the soil. From there, we have to build the foundation. From the foundation, we put the floors. From the floors come the walls, from the walls come the ceiling go the roof, and then in there goes the desk and the chalkboards and the books, and you get the picture, right? Because I just painted it really quite graphically, didn't I? So that's the gradual step of evolution of building that structure. So if we're talking about building a consciousness, which is in essence the same thing, then what are the gradual processes or steps for that? Well, here's how Jack Canfield, one of the co-writers of the books Chicken Soup for the fill in the blank, right? I don't think he's written one Chicken Soup for the divorce yet, has he? But Chicken Soup for, anyway, here's what he says. Decide what you want. That's the first step. Believe you can have it. That's the second step. Believe you deserve it. That's the next step. And believe it is possible for you. There are two things there that are the common denominators. What are they? Decide and believe. You, of course, because you are the one that's doing the deciding and the believing. What he's telling us here is if we are choosing to evolve consciously in our lives, what we have to do is first make a choice to what? To decide. And then what are we going to decide on? Well, we also then, once we do that, we have to believe that it's possible. We have to believe it's possible that that which we desire in life can be an experience. We have to believe that no matter what's showing up in our lives, we have the capacity within us, along with the use of spiritual principle, to draw forth into our experience that which we desire. And that's really it. So we have to do that, except there's one more step. We have to then do the work. Now, is that an easy task? And is it a newfound, new thought idea? No, it's not. It's been around for quite some time. As we see in the New Testament, the book of Mark, it was written this: all things are possible if you what? All things are possible if you what? So the key is we must develop the belief system that that which we desire is possible. Now, that's important for all of us individually in life because we are evolving beings, as we've already established, whether it's conscious or unconscious. But it's also important for you as a community as you're about to embrace this next stage in the journey of life called Centers for Spiritual Living, Simi Valley. What I would like to invite you and encourage you to constantly think about in your life is what's possible for this center. What are you willing to let go of from the past so that what you desire in the future can become real. The key is we have to develop that belief system that it's possible. That it's possible. And keep practicing spiritually in spiritual practice on the possibility so that it shows up in form for us. Here's how our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, addresses this. He says that we must seek to realize the spiritual seek to realize the spiritual universe. I type so weird. We must seek to realize the spiritual universe. It's actually only supposed to be one to realize. We must seek to realize the spiritual universe, that which we are one with, regardless of any condition, if we would embody the greatest good. What he's saying is that we must come to a place in our spiritual evolution to where we realize that the spiritual universe, that which is not in physical form, right, but one that we are one with, regardless of what shows up in our lives, exists there for us if we are to step into that through our mental practice, and in doing so to draw into experience that which we desire if we embody the greatest good. What he's saying is it's not enough for us to just conceptualize it, to talk about it, to just think, oh yeah, it'll come. What he's saying is that we must know at the depth of our soul and our being that we are the very power itself that gives cause to that which we experience. He says we must embody it. We must embody it. Well, what is it that we must embody first and foremost? That we're a child of God? Absolutely. But we're more than a child of God. We are one with that power that's called God. That's called God. That's called Buddha. That's called Allah. Doesn't matter what we call it. It exists. But we must know that it is there for us, existing through us, so that we can create that life that is not only more painless, but more joyful, more loving, more abundant, more prosperous, and a hell of a lot more fun, right? Don't you want a life that's a lot more fun? Woo, child, that should have been a real big yes. Don't you want a life that's a lot more fun? Yeah. Good. Well, then your goal today, should you choose to accept it, is to embrace your good. Now, the definition for embrace is this. Hug somebody, always fun, right? Wasn't so much fun. No. Okay. Hug somebody. So we went back to Friday night. I'm sorry. Hug somebody. Make use of something or adopt something. So what is it that we can make use of or adopt? I think the hugging part we all know is a good thing, right? Well, I think that what we can make use of in a new way is our understanding and acceptance of the power of God that exists within us. And something that we can adopt is a new attitude. Nothing wrong with that, right? A new attitude in regards to when life shows up, is it showing up in a way that we like or not? Because the truth is, good always exists. You know, just recently out in the world, we had a situation where it didn't necessarily appear so good. And those were the shootings that took place in South Carolina. 9 people lost their life by a mentally unstable individual. Did that appear to be good at the time? No, not at all, right? However, did good come out of that situation? Actually, it did. That symbol that had been flying over that state capitol came down. A shift took place in that region of the country where people decided that no longer were they going to stand for and allow such bigotry and hatred to take place in their country. That's evolution, right? And for quite some time, it had been unconscious evolution taking place, building up to that moment where individuals decided for there to be conscious evolution and to demand that that unfold. Now, that's certainly a radical and extreme situation in life. And do we have to wait for situations like that to choose to adopt something new in our life? No. You can do it when you show up at the gas station, you know, and you meet somebody there. The other day I was at the hardware store and I had a challenge with a screw that I wanted to use to put in a light. And the guy kept saying to me, "You don't know how to screw the screw. You don't know how to screw the screw." And I wanted to say to him, "Screw you," but I didn't. And what I kept thinking and what I was saying to him was, I know how to screw. I know how to screw the screw. I know how to screw the screw. And I finally had to surrender to think whatever is going on here for this dude isn't real for me. I need to trust that he's the catalyst for me to get the little bitty screw that I need to go home to fix my light. And once I surrendered that and chose to not be combative with him, to prove to him that I knew how to screw the screw, that I could indeed have an outcome that I desired and ultimately did so. So what took place for me there was, did I hug him? No. Did I want to? No. Did I want to adopt something new? Yes. I had to adopt a new attitude. Did I need to make use of something? Yes. My wisdom and my intuition to trust that that which I desired was possible if I were to engage in the situation and know that God was meeting God no matter what the conditions were. I had to embody my greatest good. Thank you for the applause for that. We could send that to him at Kuntz Hardware. Is that easy to do, that activity in life? No. In fact, so often in life, we all want to jump right up and get in the, or I'll speak for myself, get in the dude's face, right? And I know what I'm doing. Don't mess with me. But should you and I desire to have a life that's filled more with joy and love and peace and harmony, it must be our spiritual practice to embrace, embody, hug, engage the good. And at times when life is hard to do, I think it's time to create a new spiritual practice. So often in our lives, we're taught in this teaching that we must engage in spiritual practice. And that means to sit and meditate. Is meditation great? Yeah, just did it. Loved it. You guys enjoy that meditation? Meditation on the fly? That's what it was. It was cool, right? But there's other ways besides spiritual mind treatment or meditation. I love this directive that's given here. It says, in my perception, for a new spiritual practice, talk about your blessings more than you talk about your problems. Pretty basic, right? But oftentimes we all need to be reminded of that. So what if that became just your mantra or your spiritual practice for the day? To talk about your blessings more than you talk about your problems. Why is it important to do that? Because as students of the science of mind, we're taught once again that we get to experience that in life which we put into life or place into life. So if we're placing into life our problems and we audibly affirm them, then what we're going to draw into our life is more and more and more of what? Our problems, whether they're ours or not. The same things with blessings. I don't know about for you, but for me, oftentimes, as you can hear, I like to get in my own way on my spiritual journey, and sometimes I find it hard to see for myself that which really is my good. And so oftentimes I like to look outside of myself to see examples of who and what in life has shown that when one chooses to transcend the conditions of life, life can really be fabulous and miraculous. I'm not saying my life's not fabulous or miraculous. It is. But oftentimes I get in my own way. Do you guys ever have that experience? Good, we're all human, right? Well, for me, one of the people that has done that is Nelson Mandela. And it says here, and I'm assuming you all know the history of Nelson Mandela and all that took place to get him jailed for 27 years. For 27 years, this man was jailed in Robben Island, where many of those days he sat with a hammer and hit rocks. That's what he did to create gravel. And so when he was set free, this was a statement that he made. And it was this: as I walked out the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be imprisoned. I'd still be in prison. What Nelson Mandela was doing, or did, once he left those gates, was he chose to live life in accordance with the quote that Gary Zukav gave us. He chose to step into life, allow it to be more painless than before, to be more freedom-oriented, and to choose life in a way where he wasn't focused on that which was in an unhealthy way, but focused on that which was in front of him as opportunity. He chose to evolve consciously. So I invite you today to ask yourself, how can you choose today to evolve more consciously? When you walk out the doors of the Centers for Spiritual Living today, are you going to leave your spiritual life in behind you? No. Choose consciously with intention and with purpose to walk out today more free than you walked in. And that can only take place if you're aware of who you are as a divine being and what spiritual practice you're willing to engage in a practical way. I want to tell you a little story that exemplifies that. A priest and a taxi driver both died and went to heaven. St. Peter was at the pearly gates waiting for them. "Come with me," said St. Peter to the taxi driver. The taxi driver did as he was told and followed St. Peter to a mansion. It had everything you could imagine, from a bowling alley to an Olympic-sized pool. "Wow," said the taxi driver. It was so blown away. Next, St. Peter led the priest to a rugged old shack with a bunk bed and a little old television set with antennas on it. "Wait," said the priest. "I think you're a little mixed up, Peter. He said, shouldn't I be the one who gets the mansion and all the good stuff? After all, I was a priest. I went to church every day, and I preached and did God's work. That's true, said St. Peter. However, during your sermons, people slept. But when the taxi driver drove, everyone was in the back seat praying. Now, I share that with you because it's funny, for one thing, and it certainly gives us a visual. But I ask you, are you the one in the back of the taxi driver praying, or do you get in the back of that taxi already prayed up? If you look at this slide that I have for you, it says, if you only pray when you're in trouble, you're in trouble. What it's telling us there, and is what my dear teacher, Dr. Walker, used to say, is make sure at all times you're prayed up. In other words, what we're being told there is that make sure that you don't live life reacting to what's showing up in life, hoping to be caught up on the work that you need to do so that you're evolving consciously. What we're saying, what's being told here is that do it every day. And even if you don't find your butt in a chair meditating, you're on your knees doing the 6 or 7 or 12 or 4 steps of spiritual mind treatment, choose to not beat yourself up about it. Choose to know for yourself that you have all it takes within you to lead and to live and to experience the life that you desire. That at the spark of your thought, you can change your experience. This slide tells us that the moment that you can visualize being free from the things that hold you back, you have indeed begun to set yourself free. The very moment that you choose to no longer be imprisoned or enslaved by the experiences of your life or the fear of what may come in your life, then you've begun to already set in motion the freedom that already exists within you by nature of being a spiritual being. You know, as it was stated earlier, I work with teenagers, and for those of you that don't know, my title is I'm the Youth Events Manager for the Centers for Spiritual Living. It's my great joy and passion to work with these teenagers, and I oversee our events across North America, and it's really a lot of fun. And this past summer, we had a fantastic camp where there were almost 300 teenagers for 8 days, and that'll rock your world. Let me tell you, it really will. In a good way, or it can freak you out, depending on how you're getting up that day off what side of the bed. For me, it typically does it in a healthy way, and what we did, not this past year, but the year before at camp, was the teenagers really love this teaching. And they love to constantly be reminded of the opportunities that exist in their life. And they love to make commitments to that, as well as stay connected to each other. And so we did a workshop last year called 21 Days of Love. We had these little key rings. We each had a little piece of paper, 21 of those. And we were to write on each of those little pieces of paper, I love, fill in the blank. And then every day we would read those aloud to ourselves or others if they were listening, and then photograph it and post it on social media so it went out into the world. And it created this firestorm of love that was so incredible and so amazing. And so for days on end, we would get to see each other's postings of what that individual chose to love for themselves. And one of the things that I did was I love to love me. And so I want to impart to you today, if nothing else, is make a choice today to love yourself in a new way. Make a choice today to love yourself in a way unlike ever before, because in so doing, that will allow you the opportunity to embrace your good. What we must learn in our life is that if we don't love ourselves first and foremost, we're not going to attract love into our life. And love is a synonym for God. And so what that's telling us is if we don't choose to love ourselves first and foremost, then we are probably not going to emit love into the world. Therefore, we're not going to attract love to us in the world, which means if love is a synonym for God, we're not going to be attracting into our life experiences that are a reflection of our divine nature. Are you up for that challenge today? So what I would like to also challenge you to do is for the next 21 days, or the first 21 days that Reverend Steve is here, is all create a little tag like this for yourself, 21 days. And for 21 days, create a practice as the Centers for Spiritual Living Simi Valley of how you can start the growth that you want to take place. How can you support Reverend Steve and his ministry? How you can let go of anything that you're attached to regarding the past. It's a new day, ladies and gentlemen. A new day has dawned in Simi Valley. And the only way that you can experience that which you desire is by starting with yourself. It says here that when you are truly comfortable in your own skin, No, that's not me, by the way. Not everyone will like you. That's because if you know me, I'm actually right-handed, so I would point with my right foot. When you are truly comfortable in your own skin, not everyone will like you, but you won't care about it one bit. It's not that you won't care about it because it's up to them. You won't care about it because you know who you are. That's the difference. That's the difference, because you're consciously embracing your own good. That's why. I feel so blessed to have been on the spiritual journey in my life, because one of the first seminars I ever took was from Dr. Raymond Charles Barker. How many of you in the room know who that is? So he was a student of Ernest Holmes. And I was 20-something years old, early 20s. I was sitting in the auditorium in Atlanta, and he was giving this. And he was a curmudgeon-y old man. I mean, really was. And slamming his hands, and you have to do this. I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can learn. And I'll never forget he said, what I want you to do today, if you don't love yourself, go home, look in the mirror, look into your eyes, and say, I love you. I love you. I love you. Now, how many of you can do that? That's the spiritual. Mark can do it. He's the only one to raise his hand. You can do it. There we go. And even if you can do it, you can't do it too much. You can't do it too much, because life begins with the concept of loving thyself so that you may love others. That's the spiritual practice that will allow you and I and us collectively to experience more and more and more of life, which is indeed good. Now, I saw this little meme that I had to share with you because I think it's just funny, and it captures this, and it's a dog looking in the mirror that says, I will catch the ball today because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. Now, from what we can gather about our canine loved ones, and I certainly have one, is that it is important for people to like them. It doesn't have to be for us, because we don't have to have that approval to know who we are as spiritual beings. What I do know that you have within you today is the power to have the conviction that you can catch the ball, whatever that may mean in your life that you've decided that's out there, that you are smart enough, you have the intelligence and the wisdom to transcend any condition that exists for yourself in your life, and that what matters most in life is that if you desire that you want to like someone, that the person that you should choose to like first and foremost is yourself. Today's the day, ladies and gentlemen, that should you want to experience more and 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 more good in your life, it's up to you to embrace it. Thank you so much. Have a great Sunday.